I've got you on, Freddie. Good morning. Thanks for a few minutes here in Albany.
My pleasure. I mean, come on, we're old Albany buddies, Rodger. We go back more than a couple of minutes, and the fact that you're up late that night, boy, that's a long ride home. You got to deal with my voice on the way home, my friend.
It's soothing, Freddie. It's soothing. Hey, by the way, before we get into 1,000 topics, I do want to thank you, and I know a lot of people in the Capital Region thank you for all you do every year for the Coaches vs. Cancer event, which is in September. And last year I was in attendance. Hooley was there, and Fran McCaffrey with phenomenal stories to tell. But really, there's so many people when we bring up your name, Freddie, go, boy, what a great guy. Thanks for all he does for that event. So thank you.
My pleasure, and I stand on everybody's shoulders being a part of a wonderful event, and it's not just an event for Coaches versus Cancer, Rodger. That's a big thing, as you know. But everybody in the Albany and Siena community really come together for that night. So anytime you can have people coming together like that for a great cause and putting the rivalry aside, that is Siena and you, Albany, and doing that, that's always a great event. And as long as they want me to come up and be a part of it, I'm always going to want to do that.
Well, Freddie and I listened to a good portion of Mike and Mike this morning, and their whole show is the Jimmy V Foundation, and I heard Jim Kelly had called in, and we know what his battles have been with cancer and all the money that they are raising for research. That's all about that today on ESPN. And I know you know the importance of that, as you're obviously very much a part of the ESPN family. But you can't say enough or do enough to reach into your pockets and make a donation, knowing where that money is going for cancer research.
It's amazing how that one speech that he had at the ESPYs will live on forever because, Rodger, to be honest with you, that's one of the greatest speeches I think we've ever heard, and not just in sports. And the fact that that little part of that speech, part of the ESPYs, and he didn't live long after that, has been able to fuel what we've been able to do, part of ESPY Day. And it's not just one day today. It goes on 365 days a year. People are so involved in it to do everything they can to build up enough money to make sure we have enough research possible to fight back against this terrible disease and knock out this terrible disease. So today is a culmination of really 365 days of everybody pooling their resources together, banding together, and making sure we do everything possible to have as much as we have the need on hand to make sure that cancer is going to be eradicated.
Freddie Coleman with us, ESPN radio host, 11 p.m., 2 a.m. Eastern, right here on 104.5. The team. Let's start. There's so many topics to get to with you. Let's start with the All-Star game last night. Your takeaway from that?
I still hate the fact that it decides home field advantage in the World Series. That's number one. But the best thing about it to me with last night was seeing so many guys around David Ortiz in his final year in Major League Baseball. It was such a culmination of what he's been able to mean to so many people in baseball, not just Latin players. I had Chris Singleton, ESPN baseball analyst, on last night, and he shared a story of mutual admiration society between David Ortiz and Rizzo of the Chicago Cubs. Rizzo said he didn't think that David Ortiz knew who he was. And Ortiz walks up to him and says, "You have got the goods to be a star in this league for a long, long time." He said Rizzo wasn't even on planet Earth at that standpoint. And to me, the score is going to be inconsequential because many people look at it as an exhibition, and that's exactly what it is. But when you hear something like that, to me, that's what the All-Star game should always be about. And if I'm Major League Baseball, I play that up more. It's not so much about the game or deciding home field advantage in the World Series. It's all about the relationships that players continue to have, especially when you have a guy who, in my mind, is going to be a Hall of Famer in David Ortiz, and the respect that he's gotten from other players and the respect that he gives back because he keeps his eye on the game.
And I love the season he's having, Freddie. It's great to watch. You know what I don't like? I don't like when I hear, well, he must be doing something to be able to have in this guy. I really never, I personally do not go down that road with David Ortiz.
I don't go down that road at all, but I also understand because baseball did not do themselves any favors by looking the other way when steroids and performance-enhancing drugs were rampant in their sport, especially when they took the postseason away from the fans in 1994. Then we had the summer of Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa that even with the PED suspicions, the PEDs I believe both of these men took, baseball was saved by what happened that summer. So I understand why people want to go down that rabbit hole. Rodger, I'm with you. I don't do that because maybe I'm too much of a Pollyanna for my own good, but I believe that David Ortiz at this point of his career is not doing anything. And until I hear or see something otherwise, I'm going to stay where I'm at with that. So the fact that he's having this kind of season, an MVP-type season, it could lead the Boston Red Sox into the playoffs in his final year of Major League Baseball. I'm with you. I'm concentrating more on that, what he's doing. I'm not worried about any other suspicion or whisper or anything like that unless you bring me concrete evidence.
Freddie, Brady Farkas here. From the Futures game to the Celebrity Softball game, the Derby, and the All-Star game itself, does baseball get it right the best when it comes to their All-Star game festivities?
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I mean, the NBA All-Star Weekend is terrific, but let's be honest. Once the game happens, when are we going to see a 200 to 199 score in the NBA All-Star game? Because they completely forget about playing defense in that game. But Major League Baseball does a great job of letting people know this is what is great about our game, where celebrities want to be a part of the softball game. How cool was it to see Jenny Finch in a celebrity softball game with everybody else out there? And the home run derby, the way that they changed the format was spectacular for Major League Baseball. And Giancarlo Stanton had a all-star weekend for the ages, hitting 61 home runs, winning the home run derby on Monday. They completely get it right from that standpoint. Where they get it wrong is that I think they have too much selective memory. If Giancarlo Stanton had that kind of all-star game performance at the home run derby, that is part of a highlight loop for me the rest of the season, to let people know this is what you're missing about our sport. To let young people know, yeah, we know baseball drags on and you want things in 140 characters or less because that's the world we live in right now where it comes to social media. But a performance like that should be first and foremost when it comes to your sport. I think Major League Baseball at times lives too much in the early 1900s thinking we don't need to do this. Well, more than ever before, when you have great moments like that, they should be celebrated. They should be talked about. It should be to the point that people say, okay, we get it. But that means the message is getting through and they understand, okay, let me go check out a baseball game on TV or look at it online or go to a game if I can afford to go to one in person. But they have to do a better job of letting people know this is why our sport is great. Events like this, and that's only a small part of how great our sport is in Major League Baseball.
We're talking to Freddie Coleman, ESPN radio host, here with us here on Big Board Sports this morning. Freddie, live, local, late breaking, and have you heard the news yet? You probably have, but a federal appeals court has rejected Tom Brady's attempt to get a new hearing on his Deflategate suspension, and now probably will go to the Supreme Court. Is there an end to this story? Apparently not, but that is the latest today. Does that mean that maybe Tom will back off of this and we will have him serve a 4-game suspension and move on, or is he going to take this to the final stop, the Supreme Court?
Knowing Tom Brady, I wouldn't put anything past him, but Rodger, I'm with you. At a certain point, when you get to the end of the line, if you're Tom Brady and the National Football League, are we definitely talking about deflating footballs going to the Supreme Court because they have nothing else better to do, nothing else more important to think about than worrying about footballs being deflated or not being deflated the night of the AFC Championship game versus the Indianapolis Colts? This whole thing could have been avoided if both of these two had not gotten into a yard measuring contest. Tom Brady and the Patriots, with their arrogance, said, well, we didn't do anything wrong. We can't believe that you're putting this out there. And the NFL is going, okay, now you're insulting us by saying that you think that you can get away with this. All the Patriots had to do was say, okay, look, something went on. We don't know what went on. Just play dumb and say, we'll just pay the fine and go about our business. And the NFL could have backed off a little bit and said, look, guys, come on. We heard whispers about this from other teams you played against in the regular season. Why are we going through with this? Why could not senior heads have developed and really got to the front of this whole thing, and this whole thing could have been avoided, been out of the way 18 months ago. Instead, the NFL, they were not going to back down because of their resources, and the Brady and the Patriots were, because of their arrogance, not going to back down. So now we're talking about the Supreme Court, NFL, and deflated footballs. Like the Supreme Court has nothing else better to do than to worry about this. At a certain point, you're Tom Brady. I think you just have to cut your losses. The Supreme Court may say, we're not going to hear this. You're going to have to deal with that 4-game suspension. The problem with that is if you're the NFL, that'll be the most motivated football team going into this season because some teams don't play well angry. The Patriots play extremely well angry, and you know they're going to use an us versus the world mentality to try to make this work and have this blow up in the NFL's face.
Freddie Coleman, ESPN radio host, with us here on Big Board Sports this morning. Freddie, switching to the NBA, what was your take on Durant to the Warriors, good or bad for the NBA?
I don't think it's a bad thing because I understand people don't want super teams, but not too many people were raising their voices when the Boston Celtics made sure that 2 trades happened where they had their big 3 with Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. Not a lot of people are talking about that. if you're Kevin Durant, if you believe that you had gone as far as you could to make Oklahoma City a championship team and you felt it was not going to get any better, then I don't blame him for trying to improve his situation, improve his spot to get a championship. Anybody in their right mind, if you got a chance to improve your lifestyle, improve your work conditions, you're going to do that and not look back. And Kevin Durant did the same thing. I know that it bothers people that he went to the team that they lost to when they were up 3-1 in the Western Conference Finals. That shouldn't matter, because what if Kevin Durant decided to go to Cleveland and join with LeBron James? Would people have had a problem with that because they didn't lose to that team? I didn't have a problem with it. I know Adam Silver, the commissioner, said, I don't know if this is a good or bad look for the NBA. But Golden State, all of a sudden, think about the kind of attention they're going to get that's going to benefit them, benefit Kevin Durant individually, and also benefit the NBA, because so many people, especially casual fans, are going to look and see how is this going to work, where you had this team that won 73 games in the regular season last year, fell short in the NBA Finals, and now they add one of the 3 best players in the world. That's going to create as much attention with Golden State as we saw when LeBron James, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade got to Miami, and we saw how that benefited the league, even though people did not like it.
Freddie, up here in Albany, everyone's up in arms about the Yankees, their age, their injury concerns. Well, I am very worried that the New York Knicks are about to be in the same situation. On paper, they've made a lot of good moves, but going out getting Derrick Rose, getting Joakim Noah, do you think they've done enough to be a contender really in the upper echelon of the Eastern Conference?
I don't think so in terms of a contender, the upper echelon Eastern Conference, but if everything works out well for them, that's going to be a pretty good starting 5. But is it going to be good enough where they can get a 4th seed or a 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference? Right now, I think all bets are off on that, because I'm with you. In terms of the injury concerns, they're going to pay close to $39 million, hoping that Derrick Rose and Joakim Noah can stay healthy. And then you add another $5 million on top of that with Brandon Jennings, hoping that torn Achilles that he suffered is not going to affect his quickness, that they're going to need the guard position, whether he plays with or behind Derrick Rose. So I don't mind the moves they made. I still have my concerns about it, because I think that's a lot to pay, and hope and wish that injured players are going to stay healthy, especially with Derrick Rose with all the injuries that he has suffered ever since he won the MVP for the Chicago Bulls. But I know Phil Jackson had to do something, but I still wonder how much of this was a James Dolan move, where he looked at Phil Jackson and said, look, I'm not trusting this triangle. I'm not trusting this building through the draft. We don't have any draft picks, and free agents don't want to come here. You better go out and do something. And that's why I see Derrick Rose joining the Knicks and Joakim Noah joining the Knicks. Phil Jackson knows that if this doesn't work out, James Dolan will pay him the $24 million left in his contract to go away and go back west and hang out with Jeannie or go to his ranch in Montana. So a lot is on the line, not just for Derrick Rose playing on that 1-year contract or Joakim Noah with his contract, but Phil Jackson's legacy. His job is on the line, in my opinion, in New York, that if this really turns into a 33-49 team, James Dolan will make a lot more changes that won't involve players with the New York Knicks after this season.
Freddie Coleman, always a pleasure spending a few minutes with you. Thanks for all you do, and I will be listening tonight at around 12:15 on my way home from work.
My pleasure, gentlemen. Let's do it again soon, and take care.
Thank you, Freddie. Freddie Coleman with us.